Okay, just going to talk you through the big fish shore rock fishing rig. Starts at this end with a standard Gemini clip, which will eventually go onto the lead. Then an impact shield, just to clip down the bait to help protect the bait and give you a bit of distance. Now this part of the rig can be done away by using an impact lead, but these are more expensive, so I'm going to show you the full rig, which just uses a standard grip lead, just to save a bit of money really. So after the impact shield, you've got a small bead and then a crimp, which just holds the impact shield in place. Then another small bead onto a larger bead. That's so the larger bead doesn't go over the crimp. This green line is £60. Then those two beads trap a swivel, which will eventually, that will go onto the main line. Along then, right the way along the line, you then come down to another knot and a larger swivel, and then crimped £200 line, which then goes down onto a crimped size 10/0 hook. Now the £60 line has got to be a little bit longer than the £200 line, because that's where the swivel should go onto the main line, so it must rest approximately there, and then the hook has got to go down and attach onto the impact shield, and then the lead. So that's kind of how the way it should sit when it's attached to the main line. Now as you come down to the lead at the bottom, you can just clip it straight onto the lead, onto the Gemini, or if you're fishing in a very snaggy place, you can just use a small section of garden wire. And what this will do, if you just cut a small piece off, attach that let's get that back out there, attach that to the Gemini, then to the lead, and give it, say, about 5 twists. Under severe strain, if the lead does get snagged, that will be fine for casting with, but under a severe pull, that will actually pull out, and then you will just keep the fish and the rig and lose the lead. Now moving on to the tackle box, I'll just give it a quick run through the tackle box. The yellow box is just your bits box, which has got to be full of all kinds of things that you may need: hooks, swivels, beads, all the spare components to make rigs. Then inside, a pair of pliers, a good knife, a priest, which is really just to knock out smaller fish, mackerel and bait fish, and a good pair of scissors. You'll see that virtually every single space on this tackle box is used up. Sellotape is always really handy for different jobs, a lighter, a multi-tool, some Vaseline, which again's got various uses, but it's also, if you're in a very windy place, it's basically just to protect your skin, something to clear your nose with. A medicine box, which is just full of things like plasters, painkillers, indigestion tablets, basic things, so just basic first aid with a pair of pliers. Then you've got a float rig, which is just ready set up just as you fancy a bit of fun, a knife sharpener, some night lights to sellotape to the end of the rod, some power gum for making stop knots, some bells for the end of the rod, old-fashioned bells, but it's amazing how often that you forget to look at the end of your rod while you're doing something else, and that, the amount of times that has reminded me of fish, it's well worth clipping them on. Some bait and elastic and some clippers, which is the best thing for just easy clipping of rigs. a rig wallet which is full of the big rigs and some mackerel feathers, and then we will come on to the reel, which we're going to deal with next. Something I didn't mention is why you would actually use a pulley rig. Why you'd use it is firstly that you'd protect the bait and give yourself better distance, because it would be a streamlined rig and protect the bait until it hits the sea. When it does hit the sea, the hook will release from the clip and then the weight will fish the bottom, something like that. When the fish takes the bait, it takes the hook and you're on the retrieve, the weight of the fish then will pull the weight clear of the snags. So on the retrieve, the hook will be well clear, the weight will be well clear of the bottom, which again will just reduce snags. And then the third reason is that if you were to blunt the hook and you needed a new hook or snap the hook, you can easily crimp and just another hook on, and that will not affect the rig. Because it's a pulley rig, it will work at various lengths, whereas if it was a fixed rig, the whole rig would need to be adjusted. Now we're going to move on to loading line onto the reel and a BIMINI twist. Okay, now we're going to put some line on the reel, and we start by, it's a lot easier if you actually have the reel on the rod for a start, because it's just much easier to wind in. So we've got the reel on the rod, using a good quality line. My favourite always of all time is Daiwa Tournament. Very supple, very visible in day and night, and good memory and good casting. Still mono beats braid for me every time.